Welcome back, America. We know the southern border is not just creating problems for the immigration system, it's also putting extraordinary stress on families who are losing a huge number of loved ones to the illegal drugs, particularly fentanyl that has flowed across this country. It is one of the most extraordinary chemical poisonings in American history. A lot of people have called it a chemical warfare attack on this great nation. Our next guest has been one of the most important sirens, and not only bringing attention to the crisis, but the lack of inaction and the toll that it is taking in every community in America. He is the former Special Operations Director of the Drug Enforcement Administration, and he's our good friend, Derek Maltz Sr. He joins us right now. Derek, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. You have been fighting to get the American people to understand how this has unfolded from China to the cartels to our shores here. But I want to start with something that came up over the weekend. We had a story on Just the News, DEA saying that the fentanyl crossing the border today is even more lethal, more deadly. The cocktails are getting more poisonous every time they bring a new shipment over. Why would the cartels want to make something more poisonous and kill their customer base?
The cartels are trying to maximize their profits. That's what they're doing. And they don't really care about the customer. They care about the money. But unfortunately, now that we have the weakest border in America's history, now they're making so much money on the human trafficking, the sex trafficking. And so drugs is just another, way to earn some money. But it's very addictive. It's causing, addiction all throughout America. But unfortunately, kids are dying at record levels. But John, we got to remember that China is the one that started this chemical bombing campaign. I go back as far as 2008, 2009 with the synthetic cannabinoids and cathinones. But, like Chris Wray has been telling everyone repeatedly, how many times do we have to hear that China is the greatest national security threat to our country, but yet we're letting them in at record levels, and they're killing our kids at record levels, and now they're starting the marijuana grow operations all over the country with very high THC marijuana. It's total insanity. And somebody has to be held accountable for this.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and Chairman Mark Green put out a sheet a few weeks ago and said that 1,000 Chinese nationals have come into this country every month for the past 5 months. I don't want to paint with a broad stroke. I'm sure that some of them are coming here for honest reasons, fleeing China. But I would imagine there's coordination between them and the opioid crisis, right?
100%. And remember, let's not forget that the Chinese nationals are the primary money laundering services for the Mexican cartels. They're picking up bulk cash all over America, and they're laundering the money back to the kingpins in Mexico, and they're doing it in a very efficient manner. They're using encrypted apps. They're using banking apps, and we've never seen this in the history of the country. So business is booming. The production is booming because they're getting the chemicals to the cartels very, very effectively through the ports in Mexico. But you got to remember that at the end of the day, what we really need to look at is what the families are facing. We have 22 teenagers every single month that are dying from fentanyl. We have 320,000 kids have lost their parents over the last 10 years. Like, when is everyone going to wake up to this? This is something we've never seen before. I've been talking about it for 7 years, and we're getting very little traction. The only reason they're talking about it now is because it's an election year. But remember, let's not forget something, that the fentanyl bombing campaign started under President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. That started back in the day around 2012. So let's make sure it's clear.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely important that we understand where this all began. Also, you mentioned, or Amanda mentioned, the Chinese nationals coming across. There was a warning issued by Homeland Security Department that we got a hold of a couple of months ago that said some of those Chinese nationals are behind these new marijuana grow facilities, particularly in Maine, but also in other parts of the country. China doesn't do anything by accident. People don't leave the country unless China lets them leave the country. Why would China want to send their nationals here to create these marijuana grows?
John, great question. They're very strategic in what they're doing. They understand America is very weak on marijuana. That's why the movement right now is to reschedule marijuana from Schedule 1 to 3. And DOJ has hijacked that process from DEA. But the reality is they understand that the THC that they have in the marijuana today is causing psychosis. It's causing schizophrenia, increased heart attacks and strokes. It's all over the news. So why the hell would you want to reschedule it to a less class of class 3. It makes no sense. But let's not forget, you always have to remember, why would China be doing that? They want to destabilize and destroy America under the disguise of drug addiction, and they know they can get away with it with marijuana because people are not paying attention to this. And, John, I found out something very interesting. I work closely with many agencies around the country. You want to hear the latest?
Yeah.
And that is that the Chinese are now using Chinese pesticides. Let me repeat that slowly. Chinese pesticides imported from China to spray on their crops. So isn't that a concern? Like, what's the long-term effects of Chinese pesticides? We're concerned about our own pesticides on vegetables and plants in America. Insane.
Wow.
Yeah, where's the GMO crowd? Derek, absent a president who is willing to shut down the border, is there a way for Congress, for governors, for anyone to manufacture a bottleneck in the production and distribution machine to try to stem the flow of this before we can have an election and hopefully have a sea change?
Well, look, great question. Law enforcement is doing a great work. They're seizing records amounts, not only on the border, but internally in America. The problem is, you look like, for example, Austin, Texas, the month of May, the beginning of May, they had a massacre down there. There was like 80 poisoned, 11 dead, 9 to 11 dead. You can't even get accurate reports. That's the other thing that's really irritating. We can't get statistical reports on what's happening. But the only way to shut down this massive bombing of our country is decimating the cartels' labs. We want Mexico to work with us, just like we worked with Colombia in the past. But right now, the Mexican government doesn't seem too concerned about the mass production of poison killing American kids at record levels. So I'm very concerned. The longer we wait, the more kids are dying, the more families are being destroyed. And I have no confidence that the Mexican government really wants to help us. Remember, the cartels are generating, according to the study I read, they're the 5th largest, company or, financial income business for Mexico. Why would they want to shut that down?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's an economy for them. Derek, I want to talk a little bit about two things Biden said he did. He said he talked to the Chinese. They were going to try to cut down or crack down on the precursors. The cartel said last year, we want to get out of the fentanyl business. Meanwhile, fentanyl keeps pouring across. I don't think anyone were serious about what they said, were they?
John, so let me make this clear. Right now, the Chinese have moved on to a more deadly attack with the nitazines, edonitazines, isonitazines, metonitazines, protonitazines, and the xylazine, which we're buying that stuff all over America from the Chinese websites. So basically, they're beyond fentanyl. They're beyond fentanyl precursors. It's more deadly drug.
Insane.
Derek, before we let you go, President Trump, before he left office, had conversations with President Xi regarding how they could shut down that trade. Very, very extreme punishment for Chinese nationals who were producing fentanyl. Would that be the way to return if President Trump gets back in office to shut this down?
Well, there's no doubt that there was some positive negotiations going on, but you got to stay on top of it. Remember, China, Hezbollah, Iran, Mexican cartels, they're going to take advantage of weaknesses. How much clearer can I make it, right? Vulnerabilities and weaknesses is what they take advantage of. So obviously, when we had a change of administration, there was a total weakness. The border was wide open. So they're taking advantage of it. So yes, I am confident that if we have strong policies to keep Americans safe, we can turn this around. We are the greatest country in the world, so we will turn it around with the right leadership.
Yeah. Derek, about 30 seconds left. You do a lot to help the families of victims of fentanyl. Tell us how people watching today could join that effort that you've started.
Well, we have rallies around the country, but there's nonprofits. The actual families are like an army. So you have Song for Charlie, you have Voices for Awareness, you have Lost Voices of Fentanyl. Go on, help them out, participate, learn what's going on. Look at DEA's onepillcankill.gov on the website and start learning. There's a lot to do. The public can do a lot, but they have to first learn about it. We need social media influencers, professional athletes to start getting out there and doing the reels. I've been saying this forever, too. We can't get any momentum because people are not paying attention to what's going on.
As you've said often, silence is complicity in this battle. We have to all speak up and do our part. Derek, you do your part every day. Great honor to have you on the show once again. Thanks so much. All right, folks, we're going to take another brief commercial break, but you'll want to hang around because our next guest will hopefully take you through a wild but fun ride this Monday. We're going to do some laughing right after these messages.